Hello, and welcome back. Today, we are looking at my Corneria world record, 372 points. Yeah, I got this a little over a week ago now. I just wanted to go back over it and do some analysis, kind of break down all the things I had to work through to get to the point where I could actually break the world record, and hopefully help some other people who want to further optimize this level, kind of give my insight on what worked for me. I'm not going to go too in depth on like the more basic mechanics, because if I went into all that, we'd be here all day. So starting here, lots of people can get 14 points on this section. The problem is a lot of the ways people do it is inconsistent. That's kind of the name of the game with this, or I would say any world record in Star Fox, is like you can get to a point where you can get max points on a section, but what you really want is to get max points with 100% consistency. That's the idea behind this. So my setup for this is similar to the setup for main game, where you can do a distant shot on this first guy. What I found works best is I shoot right here when the ship in the distance is between the top of this text box and the top of the R-wing. Right in the middle of that seems to be about the sweet spot for it. So the distant shot will hit, and I brake as I release that shot so that the second shot will hit a +3. However, you do have to be careful. If you fire that second shot too soon, it can collide with the ship you just killed. So you see I shot maybe a little bit early there, but the important thing is the second shot here I shot too soon, and you can see the wreckage of that first ship is still falling. So the charge shot collides with it and then doesn't hit those three in the back. So that is something to watch out for when you're going for this setup. My cue for that is when I see the +1. Once I see that +1, I can react to that, shoot the second shot, and it will usually fly above that enemy. After I shoot one shot, two shot for the +3, after I release that shot, I fly to the bottom of the screen because I want it to go under this guy in the middle here and hit those two in the back. My timing for that, it's pretty generous on this one. Probably I would say the bottom of the cloud line to right about here is probably your range of when you can shoot that. And then that'll get a +2, and then you fly up and back down to get a good angle for hitting the +1 on the middle guy. Another fail condition for that with a backup, you shoot that, shoot that. Oh no, I shot too early, that shot missed. If you fly up at that angle, you can kind of just spam shots at the water and it'll usually hit these two. The rest of this is pretty standard. Brake twice to get the +5 on these guys. Then I take a pot shot out of spite on that guy because you can't kill him there. Okay, my setup for this one, I do what I call a laser buffer. There's a specific timing for how long it takes to press the laser button and then have a charge shot ready. And I use that timing based off of Peppy's text box. So when the text box is disappearing, you hear the audio cue that's about to happen in just a second. That audio cue is when I press the A button and then release there. And I'm holding full left the whole time. I also, a subtle thing there is I set up at the bottom of this laser upgrade, because what can happen is if you do this swing left, if your shot is too high, it can actually hit that ship directly and you lose the point because it's a direct hit. So I actually line up a little low so that it goes under that fighter and always gets the +1. You have this enemy, then another moth, two moths, and then a third moth that comes up here. And you want to get all three of those quickly, because if you're late on those, or if you don't kill them at all, the next one doesn't spawn. These four enemies are conditional on each other. You kill one, then the next one spawns. This first shot is probably the hardest shot for me of the three. I kind of use an audio cue where Slippy says Fox is when I shoot, and I'm at the top of the screen, I aim down when he says Fox, and then hit that. After I shoot that shot, I do a full boost, which makes this shot a lot easier. And with that timing, I can shoot immediately up there. If I aim correctly, that shot will actually hit this ship as he's spawning. And then the second shot, if that first shot misses, will still hit right there. So let's go over some of the fail conditions for this setup and the backups I have. This one, I believe, is when you miss the first moth, yeah. So you can hit him again right there, but because you hit that shot late, everything has moved because the moth on the right is also going to spawn late. What I used to do is I tried to keep boosting and hit him the same way, but I found if you boost to catch this enemy, the last moth spawns way up ahead behind the mountain and it's almost impossible to get that follow-up. So what I do is when I recognize that I've missed that shot, I don't boost again. Take a longer shot, hope that hits, and then this last moth lines up perfectly after that. And then here is the backup on the last moth. Yeah, you see I missed both of those shots and you can hit them over there. This section is pretty straightforward. Just shoot the ground for these guys. My timing setup for these, I just shoot when Falco says horrible. When he's on the first syllable of the word, I shoot a buffer shot, which I don't expect to hit anything. Sometimes it does, but I use that as just a timing. As soon as that shot hits, I can shoot the next one, and that one gets the +4. So after I shoot that shot, get the +4, the next one, I just wait a tad. It's possible to go so early that it doesn't hit, but it's hard. So if I'm just like going a tad slow, shoot up in this general area, that one usually hits. Then I shoot the next shot immediately. And this laser here is very important because any ship that comes toward the camera risks despawning before it crashes, which means you will lose a point. So I learned over time that for consistency, after I shoot this shot to catch this enemy, I just shoot a few lasers up above to guarantee that ship gets destroyed and I gain the point for it. So yeah, 1, 2, follow-up shot hits that guy. Then I wait. Again, this one is one that can easily go too early. So here, I wait again until I see the +1 pop up here. You can shoot right as it comes up, but honestly, it's probably safer to train yourself to react to that +1 coming up and then shoot directly at the saucer on the left. It'll get a +1 every time. I also shoot a shot at the building, both because it can catch this ship and also because it helps me time my braking here. Basically, I hit the brake when that shot explodes. So shoot there, shoot again, brake. So I hold full brake, and then I wait for Peppy's audio cue. When I hear that text box come up, that's the timing for shooting this next shot. So shoot it straight across the middle. It will catch both the enemy that you could have shot here and the one that's swooping over from the right. It'll also usually catch one on the ground, but that doesn't matter that much because you can follow up. Then immediately shoot a shot on the right over here to catch the saucer, back on the ground, and then we're back over to the left. So if you've done all that perfectly, you should be getting 70 points every time. I would say after like the last several months of grinding this, I'm probably about 90% consistent on this section. This next part coming up is what I affectionately refer to as the gauntlet, because there are tons of moving parts and there aren't really any backups for any of it. This first one on the left, you shoot, it's a blind shot on the left. It's not that difficult to do, but if you miss it, it loses a lot of points. Let's see if we can get a view of what's actually getting hit here. Okay, you can kind of see it. So you see there's lasers coming across from the top right. That's because there is an enemy that is swooping from up to the right down this way. Normally he's off screen before you ever notice him, but it's that one enemy and then 2 moths that are over here. There's 2 moths you can see that got caught by that shot. I got a +3, so you're killing 3 enemies with an indirect kill. That is 6 points. If you shoot too low, you shoot too late, shoot too early, that can be as low as a +2 or a +1. If you get a +1, you're probably getting 3 points instead of 6. Sometimes it's even 2 points. The timing isn't super strict. It's just the fact that it's a blind shot makes it easy to kind of miss. Here, I think, is a pretty good example of what we're trying for. I want to shoot slightly before the R-wing crosses under the shadow of this arch. And I'm aiming, you could say level with the General Pepper sign. There's also, a building in the background. I'm basically aiming for roughly the top of that building. Again, you can go higher or lower and it'll still work sometimes, but like I would say that's the sweet spot. And then here, most people, I still don't understand why I'm about the only person who does this. Most people will try to shoot the moth on the ground first and then the saucer on the right. I go for the saucer first for 2 reasons. One, it's way easier than it looks. You just swing to the right, shoot across the ground. It'll hit this building almost every time. Easy shot. You can shoot it blind and still hit it. No problem. The other thing is this saucer falls very slowly. Normally he's going to crash because he's right above that building, but there's always a risk that he will despawn if you kill him too late, because you can kill him, fly past him before he crashes, and then he despawns, no points. And then the third reason, which this was later, I didn't figure this out until later and I was changing setups. I've had like 6 different setups for this section, by the way, over the last 2-3 years. So what I found is most consistent with this, because I'm not shooting these 3 early, is shoot that, wait a little bit, and then shoot at this post. I don't have to shoot at the ground, don't have to deal with angles, just shoot straight ahead at the building on the right. And as long as you're not too early, you'll get a +1 there, no problem. And now we have what I like to call bumpless. The trick, as you can see, is to get the enemies that spawned early on back there and those 3 that spawn right there to converge, and you want to hit them for a +5. That in itself is already quite difficult. What adds to the difficulty is you're flying through this building over here and trying not to break a wing. Because if you break a wing, all of this gets exponentially harder. You don't want to bump the building, so I had to find a way to deal with that. But we'll get to that a little bit later. I do also want to point out this shot here is also quite difficult. So there's an enemy, you can see him right there. We call him the flyby. He's swinging from the top right to the bottom left, and you can catch him with a charge shot on the ground. Sounds simple, right? It's actually quite easy to hit this guy. You can just shoot at this little hill over here, and it'll catch him almost every time. But there's a problem with this. Because I am letting these 3 moths on the left live, most people will kill them right about here. They're already dead, so there's nothing to worry about. You can just take your shot and be fine. The problem is, if you shoot too far to the left, it can hit both the flyby and the moth. Again, doesn't sound like a big problem. But what can happen is what we call a kidnap, where this moth, as he's dying, crashes into this moth, and because Fox did not kill this moth, you get no points for that. So you're losing 2 points because this guy crashed into this guy. So yeah, right here, I'm taking my shot down here. That shot was a little bit high and to the left, so it caught this guy. He crashed, and then you see a +1, so it didn't even hit the flyby, just caught the moth, and you see there's only 1 moth left coming from the left. So I got a +1 for one enemy, but it didn't hit the other enemy, so I lost 2 points for that. So that's something you got to be real careful about when you're taking that shot. So what I've found is the sweet spot is like from the corner of the curve in the road up to about here that lines up with the right corner of this hill, a range about that wide. So from here to here, that's the range you have to hit the flyby without hitting the moth. And you also have to be careful about the timing, because the flyby could be way back here, it could be way over here. This ended up being the biggest struggle after I had settled everything else in this route. And that ended up being the hardest part to get consistently. Because again, if you're too far to the left, you lose 2 points from the kidnap. If you're too far to the right, you don't hit the flyby. If you're too soon, too late, you don't hit the flyby. All that leads up to here. So there's 2 groups you have to worry about, obviously. This group of 3 on the left, the group of 3 on the right. And they will intersect at a given point based on a few factors. So let's break that down real quick. Okay, so I have made a little diagram of this whole section, of this gauntlet section. Here is the arch you fly down early on. Here is where the first group of 3 spawns. Here is the building you fly through and try not to bump. And here is where the second group spawns. All right, so when the R wing flies through this building, then you come over here, come up through here, then you swing left, and you take your shot. Pew pew. This group spawns when you pass through right here. And when it spawns, it flies over to the left. The reason you bump is because you're turning too fast through this building. So if you're turning right here when the R-wing's right here, you bump the wall and you lose your wing. So what you want is to wait until you're around here so you can turn safely because you're past the building and you can aim wherever you want. It's not a problem. You turn too soon, you bump. You turn late, you're fine. So what that means is you want this group to be further left because this group spawns when you pass this line. So if you're trying to shoot at this group when it's here, that means you're shooting early, which means you're turning early. So what you want is you actually want to shoot them when they're out here because the R-wing will be here and you won't bump the wall. Okay, got it? So that is the first stage of understanding this. So the second thing is this group. Because this group goes here, hangs out here for a while, then comes up, and then back over here while this group is going this way. If you're trying to shoot this group when it's over here, you want these enemies to converge with this group when you're shooting at them. However, if this group gets here too fast, they're already way over here before this group is even spawned. If they get here too slow, they're over here, and then it's not going to hit where you want to shoot. I did used to think that I wanted the groups to end up over here because my thought was I just shoot at this angle, I don't have to turn as much, and then I don't risk bumping as much. That's actually the inverse of how it works. Because again, it's not about how far you're turning, it's about when you're turning. If you turn early, you're still inside the building. If you turn late, you're fine. So if you're turning less to hit this group, high safety, if you're turning less to hit this group, then you're turning earlier, which means you risk bumping the wall. So you want to aim over here. That's where you want the groups to line up. So the way we do that is by manipulating how long it takes the R-wing to follow this path. The space between this here and here, that is what matters. If you take too long to get through here, that means this group has more time to cover this space. That means they're already gone by the time the right group gets to here. If you go too fast, then you come over here, and then this group is still over here by the time this group is spawned and come over here. So it's all about the braking and the timing between this enemy spawn and this enemy spawn. That is what matters. It took me forever to figure out all the moving parts to see what is the key to actually getting this consistent without bumping a wing. And yeah, it all comes down to how quickly you get from here to here. If you go too fast, they'll be over here. If you go too slow, they'll be over here. You want them to converge right here. Here's what it looks like if they converge over to the right. I got lucky on this one, and I didn't bump a wing, and it still worked. But what I worked toward over here was getting them to line up over here on the left. That's what you want. If they're over here, you risk bumping. Right here is about perfect. So my setup for that, it's annoyingly precise, but it's consistent. So I shoot this shot, and not when I shoot that shot, but a little bit after, probably when I'm crossing this building, that's when I want to hit the brake. Also, one other subtle thing that can affect all this timing, which took me a long time to understand, is what I'm calling camera nudging. For one, it may not be obvious, but you actually can't touch the right side of this building. That is out of bounds. It's the edge of the camera, so you can't hit that. You can hold full right and never bump that. The problem is touching the edge of the camera, the edge of the screen, actually slows you down. So you can actually do that and stall these guys so they end up further to the right, and they're gone by the time that group of three is right there. If you're having trouble getting them to line up the way you want to, that could be something that's getting in the way and slowing you down where you don't realize you're slowing down, and that can make it inconsistent if you don't realize you're doing that. I'm trying to ramble less this time so I can actually trim it down better. We'll see. Okay, so I think I've covered bumpless pretty well here. Next up is the mech. This is pretty straightforward. As soon as that shot hits, you shoot another one, 2, take a shot up to the right to catch this guy. You could take a shot at the mech and laser him or something. I think a task does that, but it's consistent and easy enough to hit this guy with a +1. So that's just what most of us do. You take 1, 2, 3, 4 shots. 4 is consistent there. It is possible to get 5. I only recently started doing that. I'd say the easiest way to do this is let the break get down to 3/4 full, re-grab, and just keep holding. I didn't do that, but I recognize that I didn't do that. So I did another like quarter break here to kind of make up for that. And I had enough time to get the 5th shot in. 2, 3. I just rushed that one a little bit and then shot down there. And again, just a proof of concept, getting 7 shots. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it is possible to get all 5 of those points, which if you get all those, then you can get everything else being perfect. You can get 130 at this arch. Yeah, 130 right there. Normally my best is 129, but with the addition of that extra shot on the mech, 130 is doable. After this mech, pretty straightforward, shoot here. Okay, this pole shot is tricky and not tricky at the same time. General explanation is you just shoot at the pole. It catches this flyby. Easy. But I found on certain days it feels less consistent. I believe it's because if you hit the corner of this pole, it's just far enough away that it actually doesn't catch this guy. So you want to either hit the flat face on the left or the flat face on the right. If you hit the corner directly, there's a very high chance it will not work. So this time I went to the right side. It usually just depends on how I'm feeling at the moment. So after this pole shot, what I used to do and what most people do is we try to shoot in the middle of this group of 3, and you can get a +3 that way. I actually found out you can afford to break here. If you full break, shoot bottom left here so it doesn't hit these 2, but catches 1 or both of them, and then just shoot in the middle. You can get another +1. Same number of points, it's just way more consistent. And then the next shot, again, it's not that hard, but the name of the game is consistency. So what I used to do is I would shoot, like, after hitting these 2, I'd shoot straight across, roughly at the pillar on the left. I would actually try to aim a little left of that, because if it hits the pillar, it will sometimes only get a +3. This, for instance. So I shot, it was a little bit low, but even if you're high, it can still miss. If you hit that pillar directly, a lot of times it'll miss that car in the front. So you want it to be a distant shot. What I used to do is I'd try to aim like slightly left. So I'd try to aim like over here roughly, but it's just too easy to swing a little too far right, hit that pole, and then miss one of the cars. So again, a thing for consistency that I worked on is actually just shoot above them. And again, distant shot lines up perfectly to hit a +4 there. So if you shoot above them, should work every time. Then this mech, probably the hardest mech of the bunch to get max points on, at least of the ones I go for. So I got 9 points here. It is possible to get 10, but very tricky. So I shoot first, basically when the shoulder of the R-wing is about to bump this tree, shoot straight through, and that gives just the right distance to actually kill the mech immediately. Then the second shot will also catch a +5 on the mech and the 4 Mods that spawn behind there. And if you want to get max points on this mech, I would recommend breaking a little bit before passing through the arch. Basically as early as you can break while still getting the +5. And then I kind of use the timing of my shots here for the re-grab on the break, because you want to do a partial break, then a full break. So break here, 1, and then I'm like re-grabbing between those 2 shots. Let's count. Shoot 1, shoot 2, break, shoot, re-grab. That's where I want to re-grab to get 10 shots in. 1, 2, 3. I'm also counting 7 on the building and 3 on the ground. Usually it's only 2 on the ground, but if you break well enough, you can get the 3rd one. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And yeah, you saw one of my shots was a little bit early, so I got just lasers instead of the shot. That could have been 10 if I hadn't rushed that particular shot as much. Just to show you what a 10 actually looks like. So I start at 126. The way the math works out, if you get all points including 10, you will end at 156. Like you'll get 30 points out of this. So this will end at 156. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, after this guy, you end at 156. But you can just lose points. Even if you get all the shots out, some of them won't take. I believe what's happening is a mechanic that War Hippie explained a while back when he was working on the task. If you shoot a charge shot, and then you shoot another charge shot the frame before it explodes, it will disable the first charge shot, so it does nothing. It'll graphically explode, but it won't kill anything. It won't get any points. So I think that's what's happening a lot of times when I'm losing points on this mech, where if you're shooting too fast, you might get all the shots out, but some of them will be disabled, so you don't actually get all 10 points. But we got 9 points here, which is still really good. So this is one of the other 2 points I lost to execution. So a perfect run, you can see on my splits here, would be 160. We're at 158, only 2 points down, 1 point lost to each mech. Over here, you want to swing all the way left, and then you can just hold the stick neutral to hit this second building. It looks like a really tight shot, but if you position correctly, it's not that bad. So just position over to the left and shoot straight. My cue for the first shot is a distance shot. So I want to shoot roughly, he starts over here, the building's here. When he's about halfway there is when I want to take the first shot. Then I break, probably about half a break, and then regrab, take 6 shots here. It's easy to get 5 shots here. That half break lets you get 6. You also don't want to overbreak here because you're going to somersault on the last mech, and look, like my meter just finished recharging, so I barely had enough time to get that somersault in. If you break too much on the first mech, this won't have recharged and you won't be able to get the somersault. After the 6, you go shoot to the right here. This shot is more generous than I initially thought. Technically, you could try to shoot on the left here to get these guys. I find it easier to just swing wide, and I'm aiming loosely for this building. If you hit that building, even if you hit it up high, it will usually still get the +4. And you want to get that quickly if you want to get max points on this mech, because you can get 5 shots on him. If you shoot that and immediately shoot the right side of this building, shoot 1 more, swing down, shoot another, and then somersault for 2 more. If you're too slow on that +4, you won't be able to get the 3 shots before the somersault, and you'll be down to 4. Here we're at 189. Then we lock onto this. This is pretty tight, but it's doable consistently. It's just scary because it's at the end of the first half. But this charge shot, this lock on, can net you up to 2 points over just throwing a bomb. You're hitting the 3 enemies. You're getting a +2 for the charge shot immediately. As soon as the charge shot explodes, it calculates those 2 points. But it doesn't calculate the other 3 points until each of those enemies dies. This, as far as I can tell, is completely RNG. So sometimes enemies will explode immediately when the charge shot hits. You can barely see the top left enemy and the enemy I hit directly both exploded immediately. However, the third enemy is still alive, and he doesn't crash until right now. So I got 4 points out of those 3 enemies when the max possible is 5. I would say on average, I do get probably 3.5. Most of the time it's either a 3 or a 4. And on very rare occasions, I will get a 5 or a 2. And just to show you what the 5 looks like, just to prove that it is possible, I got very lucky on it. Lock on, throw a bomb. The bomb doesn't actually matter, by the way. The reason I throw the bomb is because the standard method, if you're not locking on, is just throw a bomb and somersault. If you do those inputs and you miss the lock on, the bomb still gets out, and then you get the somersault, you get the 3 points. The unfortunate thing is a lock on bomb travels more slowly than a standard bomb, so if you lock on and then throw the bomb doesn't explode in time and doesn't kill them. But yeah, you see I'm at 187, charge shot hits, and then I'm at 192. Okay, so quick note on that. The reason I didn't get the bomb this time is not because I didn't try. It's because I missed the timing. So, again, a little discussed mechanic is that if you hit the A button and the B button on the same frame, the A button takes priority. Or it could be the shot takes priority. I'm not sure which it is. But point being, if you try to shoot a charge shot and a bomb on the same frame, the bomb will not come out. That's why I missed it here. Because like you can see, I flick my finger on the C left and the B button at the same time, but the bomb didn't come out. And that's because I was just too fast about it. So this section, you're aiming for the 3 enemies on the left that you killed before the checkpoint. They respawn here. That's why we do that. And basically what I've come to is after Falco does his little flip barrel roll, whatever you want to call it, aileron roll, once he finishes that flip is about when you want to shoot that. If you shoot too early, it's a problem because it can catch just 2 of them. So shoot that, get the +3, immediately shoot to the right to get the +1 there. And then we have what we call Allan shot, because the first time me and several other people saw this was when Allan, actually former world record holder by the way, posted a video in the Discord of him practicing the second half, and he was doing this shot. Still, a lot of us just lock on to this group of 4 because this is pretty difficult and inconsistent. So the idea is you shoot the ground because you can catch the bottom one with that shot. And if he doesn't explode immediately, then you can shoot him and catch a +3 on the other 3. So you haven't hit a direct hit on any live enemy. So you still get all 4 bonus points off of that. The problem is, just like with the checkpoint, it's RNG. So here's an example. Sometimes this guy explodes immediately and you have nothing to shoot at and you just lose 6 points. But it's not too bad because it's at the beginning of the second half. So if you fail it, you can just go down to the end of the level, get your extra life, come back and try again. My setup for this is I line up at the top right corner of this arch, and then I tap down very slightly as these guys are moving in. So they come down, and when they start to swing in, that's when I want to very slightly tap down and shoot at the ground. It'll hit this guy, aim immediately at him. Also, for consistency, I hold break as soon as I take that first shot. Most of these saucer enemies you'll run into, they fall very slowly. So you want to give them as much time as possible to fall and hit the ground. See, that one barely hit the ground before we went off screen. Breaking here makes that more consistent so you don't lose points to despawns. Also gives you more time for the next few shots. So after Allan's shot, we immediately take a shot at the middle here to catch this guy in the middle. And then if you're fast enough, you can shoot directly at this guy. Again, distance shot explodes in front of him. And then this one, I aim for the building here. I missed it this time, but we have backups. There are lots of backups in this section. I love it. Also, a lot of people, I used to do this, will shoot at the building as you pass through. That's still very good. I stopped doing it because I use these guys as a timing setup for later, so I'd like to leave them alive. Also gives me more time on some of this other stuff. Then as the backup here, because I didn't hit him, shoot the building again. I shoot him twice because, again, this guy has a habit of despawning if you kill him late. So if I didn't take this, there's a chance he doesn't hit the ground before I fly past, lose that point. Here, I have a distance shot set up for this, but because I took too long, I have to shoot up to the top right at the General Pepper sign to get a +3. Shoot at the road. You can shoot straight at it because the road is slightly above the ground, so it will almost never hit the cars if you shoot low enough. Then here, I'm aiming between the corners here and here of the polygons on this hill. Get a +4 there. And this is the timing cue. This is why I leave those guys alive, because my timing to catch the Falco chasers is shoot this, do like a quarter boost, and shoot straight ahead. It catches +3 every time. And then for this saucer here, just shoot twice at his shadow. You'll get 2 +1s. He will crash instantly every time. Fortunately, you don't have to worry about despawns. So that's 3 points for that enemy. That was perfect execution. 51 points gives me a 244 here because I had a 193 checkpoint. All right, here I just do a little swag, get the bomb and the laser, except I missed the bomb because it was too early. This next shot, there's 3 turrets on the right. I use their lasers as a timing cue. Basically, when the first lasers pass me, I know I'm at the correct distance to shoot this shot, get the +3 right there. This one is weirder than... This shot is weird. You would think these 3 enemies you want to shoot like roughly in the middle. That actually doesn't work. Usually that will miss one of them. I think it's the bottom left one maybe. So actually you want to shoot like slightly to the left of this guy and above. Like this doesn't look like it should hit this enemy here, but it does. You want to shoot at the bridge, but further left than you think it is because you can miss that guy very easily. I also throw a bomb here. It's not necessary to throw a bomb, but it makes it much easier, much more consistent. My timing for this is usually after that shot, roughly in line with this tree, somewhere between these two trees. If it goes too far, it'll hit the turrets in the back and you'll lose points for that. And then my setup here is when I'm passing that tree on the left that you just saw, right here is where you want to shoot the first charge shot. That's max distance to still hit the mech. Shoot that shot there, do a partial break. Yeah, I actually did more break than usual there. That was like a almost half break. I usually try to keep it to like a quarter to a third. Then 7 shots on this mech. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, somersault. 2 more, and then get those 3. So this can be tricky though, because there's lots of ways to lose points on these mechs. For one, I think if you shoot too close to the middle, that beam can still count as a direct hit on the feet of the mech, and you won't get the point. There's also this little hill here that can catch. You can also shoot too high or too low to be too far away. There's a lot of ways these shots can miss, and also again, I think the charge shot disabling can come into play if you're going too fast. I think I ran into that a lot in the last several weeks where I was just going too fast on these shots. So just take it slow. You can get 12 shots every time. It's probably possible to get 13 shots here, but I haven't ever considered going for it just out of consistency issues. It's already inconsistent enough to get the 12. Here, we've all seen it. You get straight 20 points for killing these guys. I actually found you can shoot straight at the arch in the back if you take the somersault. Don't have to worry about aiming at the water. And this guy, I boost because I'm impatient. Get this guy. And then we are to the birds. Again, this is another one of those where I came up with my own setup because I wanted it to be 100% consistent. It's probably about 80 to 90% at this point for me, but the method itself works every time if you execute it correctly. What most people have done in the past is they boost a little bit and shoot the ground below the birds to kill them. I kill them all with distance shots. And my setups for that are very particular, but again, consistent. So I try to line up a little bit to the right of the peak of this hill, as close to the ground as I can get safely. And then I watch the shadow of the R-wing, and as it crosses this seam, I shoot my first shot, and I don't hold break yet. And then on the second shot, then I break to the left edge of the X. I also, after the second shot, as I'm breaking, I pull up because this bird is still falling. If you're low and you're shooting straight ahead, it will actually hit this bird and you will lose your shot. You'll lose your points. You'll lose your setup, and it'll be very hard to continue at that point. At least if you're trying to optimize points. So I pull up as I'm breaking to shoot over that bird, and a quarter break lines it up so the third shot will hit this guy. And then again, like the beginning, I use a laser buffer here with the voice cue. You can't use a laser buffer with the shot because it doesn't quite work. Right there, when he says going, that's when I shoot the lasers to buffer the shot on the left, swing slightly left to make it more consistent, and that gets a +1. Now the somersault. Basically, you barely have enough time to somersault and get 2 shots in. And to make it lock on is also very tricky because it matters when you let go of Z and R. If you let go of Z and R, like here, it will actually try to lock on to the bird as it's about to get hit. Very annoying mechanic. I hate it, but it's something you got to deal with. Right there. You can see my fingers come off the triggers right there. It's right before the shot explodes. Also, if you're too late on letting go of Z and R, the game isn't looking to lock on to anything, so it takes longer for it to actually lock on to the thing you want it to lock on to. So it's very particular. You gotta let go of Z and R at the right time. So I try to let go just before the shot hits the bird, and then also make sure you're aiming at where the moles are in the back. And then the timing cue for the somersault is between Fox's text box going away, and then I want a somersault like right around the time Falco's text box is coming in. So like between the between those two sounds is when you want to do the somersault. I got lucky here. This was a good RNG moment where I actually got the +2 on the moles. That's the most you can get on that lock on. And then I lock on again, go up, throw a bomb. This is also unlucky RNG. I got the +1 on the second shot, and I only got 1 point off the bomb. You can get up to 4. So right here, I'm losing 4 points to RNG. But yeah, boost like a quarter break. Allegedly, it helps the moles jump sooner so that the bomb will actually catch them. Also lines me up for this. I found this first shot is easiest if you hug the top of the screen and then swing slightly left to right about here. If you want the shot to land right below this bird, there's a chance if you aim at the wrong spot that you'll hit Falco right there. You can't see him, but he's there. So a lot of times that causes problems. So I shoot 1, 2, 3 down the middle, then hold break after releasing the first shot. I'm holding break pretty much the rest of the way from this point on. So hold break after the third shot, then shoot down for the fourth shot. Distant shot hits that one. The fifth shot hits that one. And then I swing way over here to set up for the moles. A note here that is very subtle and hard to notice, but very important if you want consistent moles, is the camera. So if you've played this level a lot, you might notice that it's a bit odd that I have this straight line up looking at the moles. That doesn't normally happen. The reason is because of the somersault. Okay, so here's my main game PB. I wasn't doing somersaults yet, so you'll see a difference in how the camera turns. It's subtle, but it makes a huge difference. All right, so you'll notice I'm at this point and the camera is still facing straight on. And then it turns right around here. By now it's finished turning. On this one, Falco's talking and the camera's already fully turned. So the camera actually turns as that last bird is dying. Like the camera's turning right now, and now it's got a straight shot down the lane of where the moles are. What I gather is the camera is on a set clock, but that clock starts way back before the waterfall around the time of this somersault. With that in mind, I've come to the conclusion that like even if you don't get the lock on, it's still worth it to do the somersault because it gives you a consistent setup for the moles. The setup I've developed for the moles to make them as consistent as possible is the first 3 shots. If you do them correctly, you get a +1, then a +2, and then a +3, including the enemy Falco is chasing. So you're effectively getting 5 free bonus points without killing a mole yet. What I do here, after taking this shot, I swing all the way to the bottom right of the screen, and then when Falco says time, I shoot straight at the first mole. That is the earliest you can shoot to get a +1 on that mole. And then when he says payback, it's more like the CK of like the last 2 letters of the word payback is when you want to shoot between these front 2 moles to get a +2. I was early, so I only got a +1 because I didn't quite hit the mole in the back. And then you can shoot another shot back here between the left and the back left mole. And at that point, Falco's enemy will be flying over the top, and you'll get a +3. Also killing Falco's enemy, which keeps him from stealing your points. The reason the camera turn is important here is because you barely have to aim at all for that. You do that, you let the stick neutral, you're perfectly lined up for that, and then you're basically using the same lineup, just dodging this bird for the third shot, and that one lines up perfectly too. I was able to do that before doing the somersault, but because the camera is still facing to the right, you have to like awkwardly shoot around the hill and like climb up and then shoot back down over it while also trying not to hit the bird. It's a whole mess. Whereas here, the camera lines up to where the aim is just kind of automatic. So doing that somersault actually makes the moles much more consistent. So that's my starting setup. And then I shoot another shot slightly to the right of this front mole, which will catch the bird. Unfortunately, it looks like I hit the mole directly, so I only got a +1 on the bird instead of a +2 on the mole and the bird. But the mole died, so that was very important. Those are the scripted shots that I have. The rest of it is kind of trying to react to what the moles do. Here, I tried to catch this left mole before he jumped. I was late. Usually the left mole jumps first, but in this case, I think the right mole actually jumped first. So I shot left, tried to catch him, did not. Caught this guy on the way back down because I saw that he jumped first, so I had to react, shoot to the right, catch him, and then had just enough time to get the left one before he goes inside his hole. So I got to kill both of those with a +1. Saw this one coming down, spam shots there. I was late on this one, but I was able to get an extra shot in. As I was passing by, he jumped. I got the +1. Very recently, we discovered you can consistently get +1s on this. For the longest time, we thought it was TAS only, but you can get +1s on this saucer by aiming for this line. I actually just started going for it, trying to randomly get it here and there. And then Safety Man actually came up with the exact spot you need to aim at. Yeah, right here. Hi, Safety. Yeah, so right here, this line right here is what Safety found is the consistent spot you need to shoot at to get the +1s. I was fortunate enough to get that one first try, but I didn't trust myself to have enough time to get a second shot out, so I just threw a bomb to guarantee that he exploded. And that was the one extra point I needed to get world record here, because I needed a 349, I had a 347, shoot one, get the +1. He dies in 2 charge shots, by the way, so you can get 3 points off of him. I only got 2, but the bomb right there guaranteed he died. So I'm at 349 here, and the rest is pretty straightforward. My health was okay here, but it is expert mode, so you can die quickly, so I'm just like trying to not take hits, get all my +1s, get the wing repair, and then for the boss fight, I was definitely farming health early on, because yeah, I'm at a quarter health. I shouldn't die, but there's always a chance, so just playing it safe. And there you go. That is the world record for Corneria. I lost only 5 points to execution, so technically, if you took that into account, thought about the RNG, you could argue that 382 is possible. I'm not gonna go there, because it's like the moles are so inconsistent. Even if you do everything correctly, a lot of times it just doesn't work. So I'm leaving my ideal number at like 381, even though it's technically possible to get lucky and get more points without any different strategies. But with all the RNG and the complexity of it, I don't want to make that the target. But yeah, hopefully that is helpful to anyone who's trying to learn and optimize this stage. I've put so much work into this, but it has been a lot of fun optimizing and finding ways to improve this. There's still like 1 or 2 more improvements that could be made, but like they're so precise, I don't know if I'll ever get to that, at least not in any serious capacity. But yeah, thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.